Hello, everyone. Welcome to a new edition of Hue at Home. Today, we're going to talk about community, health, and fitness. So I've brought in the two guys here that have this great idea. I've got Alistair Hopper, and we just know you as Mr. Fitness Guru. And your good friend here, Chris Desouza. Now, Alistair, I know fitness is the foremost in your mind, and we'll get to this, but there's this new idea that you and Chris are working on. So I'm going to let Chris say or talk to us about this new cafe, recovery cafe.
So when Alistair and me first met, his values and his passion ignited my sight. Having been in the addictions and mental health field for over 20 years, the spotlight has never been put on recovery and health. And so when we discuss the components, which is emotional, mental, physical, social, and spiritual, those are very big pillars of reclaiming a person's life, because we all need help from time to time. But unfortunately, that's the most difficult thing to do, is ask for help. So Flex Fitness Cafe, the goal is to allow individuals from frontline workers, specifically, because there's a very large emotional toll on people in the day-to-day work that we do. I've been in the front line for many years, and you kind of just have to wake up no different than nurses, doctors, like police, ambulance, firefighters. It impacts us a lot. And so our hope and goal is to create that not only just platform, but venue where people can come, feel safe, and exchange what's on their mind so they can regain a sense of satisfaction in the difficulties they're dealing with.
Wow. So, Alistair, how or what was it about Chris's idea that you knew that this is something that you could take another step further?
So when I first met Chris, just his aura, so to speak, kind of, just emanated from him, and I connected right away with that. And then, as I started talking about how I've always seen and tried to operate Flex Fitness and how I approach health, the 5 domains of health, which Chris touched on, they overlap more than we realize, and they feed each other. That, it was like, oh, this is perfect. And I've always wanted to do community outreach and help for altruistic reasons. But, it's a lot of work to do on your own, and I've got, a lot on the plate already. But, having someone partner in crime, so to speak, and, we get along really well, and, he's a great tether back and forth, that we, have this joint effort and idea of what we see as beneficial for many people. And obviously we've seen in the last 4 or 5 years, mental health, not just trending, but becoming an issue that we are more comfortable about talking about. Well, what do we do? How do we help? And so this becomes a great vehicle for that. And I'm excited. I love doing this kind of thing, and I'm excited. Chris is the idea man. I said, he's got the ideas, and I'm the train that's pushing this. Let's do it, right? And sometimes, like I said, he's got to tether me back, because I'm like, I want it done now, And he's like, well, let's do this right, And so it's great. I don't want to use the word marriage, but it's symbiotic. We've got the same idea, and we bring different things to the table. So that's exciting for me.
Now, Chris, you do have a personal story. You do have lived experience, and I think that's really important, especially to make people feel like they're not alone out there. Can you share?
Yeah. So a little snapshot of myself is back in the 90s, things I wasn't even aware that I had a problem, because many people who are in that lifestyle I call it a lifestyle because your environment that you're in, it's normal to do what you do. And until it kind of grabs a hold. So having been involved in 3 nightclubs and being around rock stars and so on, it's a very strong emotion that kind of, you don't see anything else. You think you're just having fun, you're not seeing the damage. So with all the pieces that were going on, I recall being so depressed, but not even talking about it, but using drugs and alcohol to sort of satisfy the thoughts that go into a person's head, which never stops. And that became the solution after a while. So it's not like initially it was socializing with drinking and testing things out, but then it gets a hold of us. And we don't even know. So when people say you can't see, you literally can't see what you're doing because you're in so much darkness, so much turmoil, and it takes a while until something happens. And I call it's like a shock treatment, which brings you into some sort of reality where, what am I doing? And for me, that shock treatment was losing my family, losing the job, losing, more importantly, my mom. And that was a big part, but that didn't even stop me because that pain, that trauma, everything else continued to drive me, where I did attempt suicide a few times. And clearly, as I say to many people, it didn't work because I'm still here. So I kind of make humor to it in a way, because humor can be a good medicine for us to accept different things. Was I proud of those things that I did? Absolutely not. And I honestly believe that no one wakes up in the morning, says, I'm going to destroy my life. No one wakes up in the morning, says, I'm going to do that. So my treatment, so to speak, was being in a psych ward for 10 days, given 1 bus ticket and no supports. And that's where I made it my goal, that I didn't want anyone to go through that the way I did, because sleeping under a bridge is not fun. But at the same time, I learned the value of newspaper to keep you warm. A lot of people, I wouldn't even have thought about that, but I learned that from the homeless community. So the homeless community is a community too, and they kind of support each other in different ways. But back then it was so difficult, because I recall we had only, I think it was a 1-year waiting list for help. We had only 12 beds for women in Winnipeg. We only had 36 men beds in Winnipeg for treatment. But now we're starting to have a lot more, but it's not enough. But the biggest piece that I see is, and it's getting closer, is in order for us to deal what's in front of us, A, we cannot ignore it. B, we have to row together, and we have to figure out how we choose to row together. Because at the end of the day, there are many people who are definitely suffering out there. Just recently, last week, a very good friend of mine, actually 2 good friends of mine, one particularly, his daughter was very depressed, and there was a difficult time to get her the help she needed, and she just passed away. So we hear these stories every day, and it's not that we will prevent everything, but we really need to come together and practice what we say. It takes a village to help that one person. So my question has always been, who's part of the village?
Well, maybe that's where Flex Fitness Recovery Cafe comes in. Okay, so thank you for sharing your story, because now it all makes sense in what you want to try and help within the community. Fitness and then who are you targeting? Or I shouldn't, targeting is maybe the wrong word, but who do you want to attract with this recovery cafe?
We're looking at frontline workers predominantly. So, like Chris had mentioned, nurses, doctors, firefighters, policemen, hospitality. It's a huge industry that are constantly asked to do more than what they can probably handle. Lots of burnout. So that's really where we want to push most of our effort, to give that support through our cafe, offering services, putting on events, putting a spotlight on it, right? Really lifting that up and making it a part of an everyday conversation, and at the same time, focusing on what are things that we can do, physical health, emotional health, but also, are you eating well enough so that physical component is supported as well? So there's a lot of things going in, and that's the focus of what we want to do with Flex Cafe.
And it's interesting, the business plan too. It's, you're not out here to make money, so to speak, but to really give back to the community. Mm-hmm. So expand on that.
Yeah, so we're looking at a social enterprise where we want to put on events and have other wellness businesses in the city contributing their services at a very well reduced price. But when we put on events, we're just looking to cover costs, whether it be we've got to bring in some trainers from Flex Fitness, any admin fees, but beyond that, it's all just covering minimum costs and then pushing any money extra back into these events and helping community. So yeah, it's not we're lining our pockets. It's definitely, number one is giving back to the community, helping the community, giving support, giving that access to these things that are essential, that you may not have access to because of things, whether it's government or just not knowing where to get these things, or it's just not available to you. That we are another opportunity that people can have access and help.
So what do you think?
Well, I was just thinking, so another piece that I got to see a smaller piece of what we were trying to accomplish together is first time I was part of Recovery Day Winnipeg, and so was Alistair. And at Recovery Day it was amazing to see well over 1,200 people, well over 40 organizations come together. And so now I can't say too much, but we are definitely looking, and this is where it's connecting, right? So next year, there's definitely going to be a bigger physical component to it in a fun way. One of the things I say to Alistair, because we don't look at smoking as an addiction, and that's one of the things that I'm working on. I started smoking when I was 7 years old. Wow. And so it's a very difficult thing, and I see the effects of it. So having to talk about it is really going to be beneficial for frontline workers, because I know of many who do smoke, and we all want to quit, but it's sort of like a coping mechanism too. So we need to get into more innovative coping mechanisms that can stimulate us in a more positive way. And I will say Gold Eyes or Blue Cross Stadium, and encourage people to watch for Flex Fitness Cafe and Recovery Day to see what's coming next year.
Why does Alistair have a puzzled look on his face? No, I know, yeah.
So it's just basically building on what's already been built, and really pushing more of that component of physical activity, making it fun, bringing your family in, whether it's mom that's struggling with recovery, or dad or grandma, or a grandchild or whomever, bring your family. Let's make this, about being healthy physically, mentally, emotionally, socially, but also, having fun. We can have fun at the same time. And that's going to be, we're looking forward to that. That's one of our goals. But in between there and now is, building out what Flex Cafe is, bringing in other wellness businesses in the community to offer that support, and again working towards working with frontline workers, and that's a broad term, right? And that really is our focus, is to offer these services and to improve the daily life of frontline workers, and see that change, right? Productivity, mental health, being happy, those kinds of things, and prospering. So that is our goal. And then it all comes to this big recovery day, right, which is the big Super Bowl, right, so to speak. But there's a lot going on in between. It's not just that. It's going to be many events working up to that, these proposals and initiatives and goals, and bringing in a community. So we're at the beginning. We've got a lot of ideas, and some of it might change as we go, but we have a goal in mind, and we have an idea of what we like to offer to the community, and that's what's most important. So it might change a little as we go, but there is an idea and a goal in mind.
Well, super. Congratulations, both of you. I think this is something that is definitely needed. And how do you feel right now, Chris, with all of this buzz going on?
Well, I try not to get overly excited because to me, contentment is the most important piece, because it allows us to stay focused. And I learned a lot from people who are artists. So this picture that we are painting is almost like a canvas where different things are starting to come on there. And we just want to paint a picture, and not just from our view. It's more about engaging more to be part of that picture, because we can't do this alone. And the fun that makes it fun is when you see people having a smile, feeling that joy, just being healthy and growing into the place I once remember Winnipeg used to be when I was a kid. And hence, this is part of it, just to sort of put the spotlight. Hey, let's exchange ideas. Let's sort of move to that place where what kind of Winnipeg, what kind of Manitoba we want to be. And let people know who are struggling that they're not alone. That's the big piece. And Flex Fitness and social media and your show and so on will slowly change that channel of defeat to success, because from every defeat we are actually gaining success, because we're learning something and we can adjust it. So that's really my way of thinking right now, because it's always hard for me to articulate it, and that's why it makes it so good with Alistair, because he has to listen to me, and then he draws the picture, and that's part of my ADHD, that's part of my dyslexia, that's part of all those pieces, where the key is not to give up, but the key is having an open mind and a willingness. And as long as we have a willingness as a community to grow a prosperous community, but defining what makes it prosperous. And for me right now, what we are having slowly come together as a community as a whole with nonprofits is what's making it prosperous, because they're slowly starting to collaborate together, cooperate together, and everyone knows that. I call it the triple P model, where it's public, private, and personal. So we all have a shared responsibility, and it's including the person who's got mental health difficulties, to ask for that help, because they are also part of the system. And taking that responsibility and showing care and compassion for each other is going to drive Winnipeg to be a very peaceful city where we can all feel safe and we can enjoy the beautiful city we have.
Oh, yes. Wow. One step closer, baby steps.
I like to, use the term or not a term, a saying, is we all do well when we all do well. And so that counts on many levels, not just success in your career, but success in your personal life, in your private life, emotionally, physically. So, that to me is what we should all aspire to, is helping your neighbor, helping your friend out. And so when they're doing well, you're doing well on all those different levels of health. And it's exciting because it's doable.
Yeah, it
Right?
certainly
It's doable.
is.
There's a path.
Oh, well,
We're
and then
gonna
it's
go
well
down it.
marked out. Okay, and that is a great segue, doing well and feeling well. When we come back, Alistair, of course, will be giving us a few healthy tips on how to exercise properly.
Hi, my name is Alistair Hopper. I'm the owner and operator of a personal training gym called Flex Fitness here in Winnipeg, as well as a healthy food business called Yummy Owl. Today I'm here to talk to you about a new endeavor called Flex Fitness Recovery Café. And what we are doing is working on a endeavor to help frontline workers be healthy physically. And so that physical component starts here in the gym. We're going to be having workouts for frontline workers, and these are some of the exercises that we're going to do. The first one here is going to be a battle rope. It's basically a tug of war rope that we all grew up using at school, and I'm going to demonstrate some of the exercises we can do with that. It's a great piece of equipment that can easily be put away or brought out, whether you're doing indoors or outdoors. I'm also going to demonstrate a kettlebell exercise. Kettlebells have been around for many, many years, and they've become very popular more recently. So I'm going to demonstrate some of those exercises we can do. And then a good old burpee. Burpee's been around a long, long time. It's one of the best exercises you can do. If you could only pick one, that would be one of them. Full body, cardiovascular, muscular endurance, agility, mobility. So that's going to be some of the exercises, not all of them, but just some of them that we will do in these workouts with frontline workers.
Well, thanks so much, Alistair. I know you're out of breath after doing all of those exercises. So for people that want to get involved, whether it be a business or just somebody that maybe needs some help, needs some support, where can they go?
So for now, they can go to our Flex Fitness website, so www.flex-fitness.ca. And over the coming months, we're going to be building out a whole page that'll be just for Flex Fitness Recovery Cafe, because it is a separate entity. And that'll be where businesses can go to contact if they want to be part of our journey, as well as people looking for those services. So your frontline workers can go in and say, hey, yeah, I want to be part of this, and contact us through there.
Okay, well, thank you so much. Thank you to Chris for joining us here on Hue at Home, and we'll see you next time on Hue at Home.